How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Orochi Volume 1 by Kazuo Umezz. This is what Viz is calling the perfect edition and contains the first two Orochi stories. That would be Sisters and Bones. Overall, this is a pretty interesting, good book. Base premise is you get this young woman named Orochi, and the idea with her is she's a mysterious figure. She literally blows in with the wind in a stormy night. You don't know who she is or what she's up to, but even though she appears like a young woman, you eventually get the sense that she's probably not exactly that. She is definitely way older than she lets on, and may not even be entirely human. She has strange magical powers, and you don't really know what her rules are or what she's up to. A good, mysterious horror protagonist. And yeah, protagonist. For whatever reason, I thought she would be the villain when I first picked this up, but no, she is out there trying to help, although not really understanding humanity. It maybe doesn't always help out the best. In these two stories, you get Sisters, no major spoilers by the way, but Sisters, where Orochi blows in a storm, and she uses a mind control. She touches these sisters on the head and assumes the role of their maid. And she finds out that something's going on. These girls are cursed. Every woman in their family is cursed, and when they turn 18, they are going to get very ugly. However, there are a few twists and turns along the way, and we do get some incredible human cruelty. I'll just leave it at that for now. Then in Bones, Orochi is posing as a nurse, and this woman, she's had a terrible, terrible life. Everything went wrong with her from when she was first born, but eventually she grows up and meets a wonderful man. However, despite having a few years of happy marriage, he dies, and now the woman's alone. Well, Orochi in the hospital sees this and decides to try to bring the husband back, and inadvertently brings back a zombie of him. He is all rotten, and his brain is even rotten, which is going to cause him not to think clearly and have this weird revenge plot. Again, the horror of a human element here, which I don't want to spoil, again, with twists and turns along the way. And that is one thing with Orochi. She tries to help, but she doesn't always know what she's doing. In the first story, she's more of a witness. She's kind of seeing the downfall of this family. In the second story, she's definitely responsible for most of the crazy shenanigans that goes on there. But there's a bunch of stuff non-magical where you just see, oh man, that really, really does suck. This also got more old school cartoony art in it, which isn't really going to be for everyone, but it is kind of nice and vintage looking. But also, when horrible stuff happens, this isn't the most graphic and violent book, but it really kind of does stand out more, especially the very last page, and I won't spoil it, but the very last page of Bones, boy does it end on a freaking dark ending. So there is that as well. But then there's also one thing with balance in this book. I don't know how these were originally printed, but Kazuo Umezz does not really care about page count. For example, the scene where the zombie's rising, so many big, wide panels there. It's a very long, extended sequence of him coming out of the ground. So yeah, this isn't trying to work into some schedule. He just goes, this is how many pages I want it to take, and in turn, the pages flip very, very fast, which does kind of have this weird thing where this is a 300-ish page book, And the first story is about 100 pages, I think a little less, and the second story is about 200 pages. So they're very, very long stories by page count, but they feel like much shorter stories because it's made in such a way where you can read through them fast. There's not too much dialogue on each page, and it's really more about getting big artistic splashes. And I do really like, you know, being able to do that. I do like saying, here's my story, breathing as much as it needs to. But that being said, when you look at this book, and Viz is putting out for $26.99, you know, $26.99 for a 300-page book, I wouldn't think too much of it, but it really does read and feel a lot faster than a 300-page book normally does. This is, after all, only 2 stories, so it really does feel a lot shorter than it is, and in turn, paying $26.99 for 2 stories does wind up feeling a little bit steep, but they do a good job trying to give this a good presentation. However, this really light, papery cover is very fragile, and I kind of wish Viz had done this a little different, but oh well. Anyway, speaking of that, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. I can show you a little bit of this release, and I'll give you a little bit of a taste for each of the stories. I won't be doing any major spoilers, but if you want to look at the physical release and you want to look at some of the stories and the art, we're going to go to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Orochi Volume 1. Let's go ahead and bring this close to the camera, and overall I really do like the graphic design here. A nice picture of Orochi on the front. You see her iconic black and white layer hair. Obviously it's like blonde or something when it's colored in, but when it's just a black and white image you get this nice stripe pattern. There's the side, more on that in just a second. And then here's the back where we see Orochi pretending to be a nurse going into one of the hospital's laboratories, and we get the little blurb. It gives us a very small summary on the back. A mysterious young woman slithers her way into the lives of unsuspecting people, like the legendary multi-tailed serpent for what she is named, Orochi. And then below that, Viz Media, Signature Edition, $26.99 US. And I guess about that, $26.99 for a 300-page book isn't that bad, especially hardcover. But that being said, Viz has also put out a lot of Junji Ito stuff, and Junji Ito, like, I think a lot of the short story collections are like 400 pages-ish, and they tend to cost about $22.99-ish. And overall, I have seen Viz put out cheaper, and now this book does look nice, but it's also got this paper cover, which makes it incredibly fragile. And I went to multiple stores taking a look at their copies, and this is the best copy I could find. I wanted to go brick and mortar so I could see it before I bought it, but even then there's slight scuffs in the paper, and if we look at the spine, there's a slight wear away of the red paint, and you know, even right here, a slight wear away, and like up here, you can see where the black's worn away, and you can see the tan underneath. Paper is just so fragile, and it looks and it feels really nice, but yeah, you gotta be careful with this, and I almost wish there was some sort of plastic I could put over it or something. So it looks nice. It's a little pricey and a little fragile, and I kind of wish they had done this in some other release. But at least looking at the volumes that are coming out after this, it does appear to be released consistently, so at least they're all going to look the same. I mean, they are nice, it's just, you gotta be careful with them. End papers are this nice black, white, and red, and then after that, we actually get a color picture of Orochi there holding a rose in this painting screaming above her, and a nice double-page title spread with the cemetery behind her. And after that, the table of contents. 1, Sisters, page 5, Bones, page 97. And also, if we flip to the back really quick, everybody refers to this as Orochi the Perfect Edition. However, we only see it listed as the perfect edition here in the legal on the back, the perfect edition, which I think, I don't know, that always just sounded a little presumptuous to me. And then the rating of T+ there. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about each story. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want you guys to have a basic idea of what you're in for, but I'll be avoiding the end bits, I'll be avoiding the major twist. Anyway, we open up with Orochi getting blown in from the wind, and you know how I talked about the page count? I'm glad that Kazuo Umezz had all the pages he needed to tell the story how he wanted and get big impacts like this. But when you look at these are literally your first 2 pages of the book, keep in mind that when I say the first story is about 100 pages long, there's things like this here. So this first page is literally all black and then a message at the bottom. This is the story of a woman consumed by obsession. Is there any type of tale as terrifying? So yeah, that's the entire first page. But anyway, here's the wind that Orochi blows in from. And you guys want to know a secret with this release? Take a look at this pattern here. The spine of the book, see the big dark line and then the speckled lines underneath? Yeah, the spine of the book is the wind that Orochi blows in with. And if you guys get the volumes that come after this, they all connect. So the spine of the wind blowing in is connected as a through image on all these releases, which I thought is pretty cool. Anyway, after that, we get Orochi there, walking in from the wind and settling on this house just needing shelter. And a woman answers the door, and she touches her hand to her head, and the woman goes, "Oh, you must be the maid. Come in." Which is just in such a few pages, a great character introduction, you know? She came in from nowhere. Who is she? Where did she come from? And then, oh wait, she's got magic powers. And they introduce her to the other sister as well, and Orochi has to tap her head as well, and she goes, "Oh, it was just a spider, see?" And she throws it away, but the spider skitters into the other room, and it's revealed that it wasn't a spider at all, it's just a button. So, yeah, Orochi is using illusion to get her way into these girls' lives. And she's sleeping when she hears a scream. The girls are upset by something, but what's going on here? And again, she uses her magical powers to figure something out. It's something with a number, so she pretends to accidentally drop a plate, and she counts how many pieces the plate shattered into. Well, it turns out it was 18 pieces, and that gets a reaction from the girls. It's, apparently, their family has a curse where once they turn 18, the girls are going to turn incredibly ugly, and they don't know what to do. It's seemingly unavoidable, and they're both scared because they both are going to be 18 very, very soon. Well, one day, the mother is screaming, the blonde girl runs over, and you just see a little bit of the mother. As to how exactly they look when they turn ugly, that's kept off camera for a long, long time. However, their dying mother is going to reveal a secret, and that secret is going to have pretty big implications, and it's going to, no spoilers, but it's going to turn one of the girls incredibly cruel when they hear this secret. And it really is, you know, the magic behind both Orochi and the family curse, but then seeing one of the girls turn to cruelty, it's a very human type of horror when we get to that part. And then on top of that, there's another plot element introduced later on that once again turns everything on its head. Overall, I really did like the first story, and you really get to see some craziness in a very human way here. there's a lot of fun visuals towards the end, but I do want to keep this spoiler free. So after that, we go to Bones. And in Bones, we're introduced to this young girl. Again, we get a little introductory page with this floating skull. It is called Bones after all. You there, why do you hate bones? Bones are beautiful. It's the flesh that surrounds them that is so despicable. But we get this girl, she's born in a small village, and over these few pages we get to see just how terrible her life is. You know, people will leave her, people will treat her cruelly, and we even get this part where she has to take care of her stepfather, or her grandfather, and he's incredibly ill and can't work, and she has to give him her food because there's no other food in the house for him, but he is unappreciative and doesn't really understand her sacrifice. Her father's an alcoholic, and she's growing up very, very sad and alone. So we get to see that this girl had a horrible, horrible childhood, but eventually she would grow up and she would find peace and happiness with this husband who, overall, it seems that things are going to go very well with him. But, of course, it's not going to be that easy. The husband gets hit by a car, and while he's in the hospital, we meet Orochi again, this time pretending to be a nurse. We don't really know why she's going through all these different professions. I think she might be trying to learn, but the husband recovers from that temporarily. She's glad to have him back. It's the only joy and light in her life. However, just to be taken away again, he falls off a cliff and dies for real. So from their first encounter, Orochi and Che, I believe her name is, were really good friends, and it's really hard for Orochi to see her sad and crying, and she decides to go to her and say, what if there was a way I could bring your husband back? And this, of course, causes her to go into a fit of hysterics, and you get to see that, you know, Orochi is just a little off. You know, a normal person would have a little bit more tact when bringing up such a sensitive subject, but she sneaks in to the hospital where she's got this thing buried, and it turns out she's made a lifelike doll of the husband, and she's going to try to animate that despite how dangerous it is. So she does the ritual, and unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be working. The doll doesn't come to life, and she goes, oh man, what's up with me? Am I losing my power? Well, not losing my powers, am I just not as powerful as I thought? But maybe she's more powerful than she thought, because she said that she does not have the ability to actually bring the husband back to life, which is why she was doing the whole doll thing. But then we cut back, and we see, you talk about this extended sequence, this sound coming from the husband's grave. He is brought back to life, but he's still buried in his grave. And you get this big, long scene of him slowly realizing he died, realizing that he's in a coffin, and eventually digging and tearing his way out of there. It's a very long scene. It's part of the reason why this is 200 pages-ish long, is you get so much of him just coming out of the grave and tearing his way out. However, he is not at 100%. He can't talk because his tongue rotted away. And, you know, the story is called Bones. Well, he is not altogether there, and in some places, he is literally just bones. But people find him wandering the street, bring him back to Orochi, and she's going to try to fix this broken relationship. But, like I said, twists and turns along the way, and it's not as simple a solution as you may think. Well, that being said, was it ever really simple? You're literally bringing dead husband back to life as a zombie, but let's just say it's not going to work out in any great way, and oh my gosh, the last page on this one is such a real gut punch and dark ending. But yeah, several times in that last story, Orochi just really misses her cue and is like, oh, don't do that, come on, oh, you gotta know better. And yeah, she definitely makes things worse in that last one. But overall, both very classic horror stories, both has some really good dark and human horror moments, and I really did like that. Like I said, you're only getting 2 stories in here, but this is really getting to see what these stories are like, getting all the room to breathe that the creator wanted. So I like them, but yeah, just know that despite being a 300-page book, it does read super fast. And don't expect too much answers with Orochi. We, by the end of this volume, don't really know too much about her or who she is, and I am curious how much we are going to find out in the other volumes. So overall, I thought it was pretty cool, but yeah, a little on the shorter side, or at least it feels like it. But I would still definitely recommend it. It's pretty cool. I already have Volume 2, and I think the 3rd one comes out sometime in November, so I'll be looking out for that. Anyway, definitely a recommendation. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my horror comics playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about a bunch of other horror comics, there's a bunch of stuff in there, including some Junji Ito stuff. So if you want to see more, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Horror comics playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.